Hmm? Ah!
All living things, from complex mammals to single-celled organisms, instinctively respond to danger. Expose a bacterium to a toxic chemical, and it will flee or deploy some other defense mechanism. We're very much the same. When we encounter danger, our hearts start pounding. Our palms start to sweat. These are the signs of the physical and emotional state we call fear.
Hey everybody, I'm Rima.
And I'm Shawn.
And this is Strange Indeed, a podcast dedicated to the show Stranger Things.
Today we'll be covering the 4th episode from Season 2, titled Chapter 4, Will the Wise.
Woohoo!
So before we jump into our episode, we just want to talk about our sponsor for today's episode, and that is Freshly. So you've tried all the meal kits out there, right? 30 minutes turns into 60, and all of a sudden you realize you've actually paid to do all the work. I've done it, but that ended for me this week after I tried Freshly. Freshly is a healthy, chef-cooked meal service that delivers fresh dinners right to your door. They're fully cooked, so all you have to do is heat them up in 3 minutes. Freshly is a weekly prepared meal service that delivers fresh, all-natural meals. No more worrying about what's for dinner, no shopping, no chopping, no cleanup. Try Freshly today and get $40 off your first 2 weeks. It's Freshly's best offer ever and is only valid for a limited time. So go to Freshly.com and use the promo code STRANGE to save $40 on your first 2 weeks of deliveries, or enter code STRANGE at checkout. Shipping is always free. And, we just want to say thanks, Freshly. If this is a way for you guys to help us out by helping Freshly out. So go and check them out at Freshly.com. Thanks, Freshly.
Thanks, Freshly. Yeah, check them out, guys. Especially, it's super fun to have something a little bit easy to do during the Thanksgiving holiday. Awesome. So, Shawn, are we ready to talk about this episode, Will the Wise?
I am ready.
Sweet. Let's jump into our top 5. Why don't you start us out with your number 5?
All right, Rima. So for my number 5, I almost jumped into a draft, sorry. For my 5th item, or number 5 item on this, I just want to say, Rima, I got to turn down the air a little bit. It's starting to get a little cool here. I want to open all the windows. It's freezing in here, but you know what? He likes it cold.
Ugh.
So we learn so much after the events from episode 3. So we saw the shadow monster, kind of starting to engulf Will.
Mm-hmm.
And what we learned from this, I don't know if he's possessed or what it is, but there's some kind of connection between Will and the shadow monster, where the shadow monster, for some reason, likes it cold. Is staying home. Joyce is trying to take care of him. His temperature is like 95 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it was hard to read on that. I feel like they didn't stay on that too long. It was kind of hard to read on that old-fashioned thermometer, but yeah, it was not normal.
It was the like Actors Guild, like you can only have a mercury thermometer in scene for like so long.
Do you think people were staring at that, like younger people going, what is that thing?
Yeah. Like, why is she putting that piece of glass in her kid's mouth?
Yeah.
It's, and I love, Joyce freaks out, obviously. So she did better than I could, because I watched this episode at like 11 at night, which is, usually I watch it earlier in the night, but this was like pitch black, everybody's in bed. And what I usually do right before I go to bed, I get up and I go in my son's room, because, he's in a toddler bed now and he likes to sleep by the door. So what I do is I like to, go in there, pick him up from the door, put him, in his bed so he can sleep in his bed. And I was very nervous to go in his room because Will did, like, kids are scary.
Yes.
And, if you're standing there and, your son is like, oh, it's too hot. You're like, well, it's not that hot. I can cool it off for you. Well, he likes it cold. It's like, we're calling a priest. I'm getting a
Uh-huh.
priest on the phone, and you are getting an exorcism.
Tie him to a chair.
I've lucked out with my kid. Whenever I've gone in there, he's never been like standing in the middle of the room or anything creepy like that. With my wife, it's happened once, I think, where she walked in and he was standing or sitting up in bed.
Uh-huh.
But there's nothing more creepy than like a kid just, saying things like this or, being
Yeah.
standing somewhere where they shouldn't be.
Like dead face. Like
Yeah.
just no emotion, dead face, and they're just like, he likes it cold. And he
Uh,
just turns around and walks away. What the hell? Yeah, you're right. It's creepy.
and I love, so she finally gets, a hold of Hopper. She's been trying all day. And Hopper, I don't know if he should have been like a child psychiatrist or what, because he did a great job with him trying to get him to explain what was going on.
Yeah.
And again, like if these two adults have like no, I don't know, they just haven't seen the right scary movies or what, but
Mm-hmm.
he's going through all this stuff. He's like, oh well, I know things, like I have these memories, like well they're going on right now, like they're like happening now. And Hop again is, great. And this is where you kind of see what Will the Wise is Joyce ends up seeing is like, oh, well, this is Will can draw.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get this from him. And you think he goes to his desk, he's going to draw like some kind of like a single page picture or something like that kind of explains what he's going through. And he just starts scratching away with the crowns, going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you just get like all this connection of this thing he's drawing.
Yeah, that was that like puzzle that to me it was like a puzzle. All of his multiple drawings and how Hopper and Joyce were trying to piece it together. Um, I don't know that I don't know that I would have put that together by looking at them the way that they were.
When it wasn't like page to page either, like a page had to overlap a page.
Yeah.
And they kind of started figuring it out and getting it together. And at first I thought the same thing, like this was some kind of map
Mm-hmm.
or, like some kind of tunnel system.
Mm-hmm.
And, you see the wheels kind of clicking in Hopper's mind about like, oh, I'm cold and I'm like killing things. Things are dying or whatever. When Will was talking about that and you see it click, it's like, oh yeah, pumpkins, crops. And
Yeah.
I don't know. This is kind of getting kind of real spoilery, but you see him. Hopper's like, okay, well, this is underground. It's spreading. He goes to the pumpkin patch, and what's he find at the pumpkin patch as he digs? But the thing I'm going to call BS on that is Hopper dug a big ass hole,
He did.
and I don't know if you've ever tried to dig a hole like that. Like that's not easy. Like they show like on
No.
Supernatural where they dig up those graves. Like that's not like a one night thing.
No. I would have whisked out after like 5 shovelfuls and been like, "Piss on this. Where's the bulldozer?
Yeah.
Or where's the
Where's
what's the
the
thing
backhoe?
called?
Get the backhoe in
Thank
here.
you. I'm sorry, I'm being a girl all of a sudden. What's the big machine called?
I was gonna say it's the big loud machine.
Yeah, the one with the big like bucket scooper thing. That's what I'm thinking of.
But the coolest thing from that, I thought, so he figures it out, and at first, like I thought when he was digging in there, like he heard like a scream or like a painful thing.
Yeah.
But he ends up getting the hole, jumps in, and instantly he's seeing the ash floating around, and he's like, "Shit!"
Yeah. What the fuck, man?
And whoever came up with the end for this episode is really really smart because you see the camera start to pan back, and then you
Mm-hmm.
see it start to slowly turn, and it
Yes.
gets to where Hopper is upside down.
Upside down.
Yeah, I
Because
was like,
that's what we're
oh,
in.
yeah. I was like, oh, that's really clever.
It was really clever. I love their attention to detail when they do that. Yeah, super cool. Yeah, it was like, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah, it's kind of like whenever you have mono going around when you're in high school, like everybody's getting it, everybody's getting sick,
Yep.
and that's what's happening here. It's just spreading all over Hawkins. So my number 5 is just the he likes it cold and kind of the spreading of this upside down.
That's a really good number 5. And it's hilarious how we're like always kind of syncing up a little bit because my number 5 is Will the Wise.
Nice.
And yeah, so just to kind of tag on to a little bit of what you were saying, poor Will. I mean, Noah Schnapp is doing such a great job. He went through like so many emotions through this episode. Like you saw him get so emotional. He's so scared of like what's happening to him. You see him because we kind of saw a little bit more of what happened to him with that shadow monster kind of, and like you said, we don't know. Is it is it a part of him? Has it possessed him? Did it imprint on him? I don't know that we know that. We know it's obviously had some sort of effect on him and it is somehow a part of him, or vice versa. But you see him go through those emotions of being really scared as he's talking to his mom. Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm really scared, and he's really upset, understandably so. To then, like when you mention he's got that creepy kid thing going, like,
Yeah.
oh, it likes the cold, and it's like, ooh, okay. So I thought he did a really great job in this episode with being able to go from that range of emotion and make it believable. It wasn't, I mean, he really cried. He had like tears in his eyes and he was really crying. And I think that's a true talent. I don't think it's easy for any actor to do that when they're asked to cry in a scene. Um, like you said, his puzzle drawing that he did, because Will, he seems to communicate pretty well. He does have his friends and he can communicate, but he does express himself a lot in his art. We've seen that in the first season. You would see his drawings all over, his room, and in this season as well, you'd see his drawings and stuff, and that's kind of how he expresses himself. So of course Joyce makes that connection. She knows her kids so well, both of her kids, so well, that she knows, that he's having trouble expressing himself. How does he express himself the best? Through his art. And I think, Joyce gets such a bad rap sometimes about her spastic attitude, but she's got a brain in there and she can really put those pieces together because she was able to make that connection because she knows him so well. And then she's the one, as her and Hopper are looking at all these drawings going, what the hell are these things? We don't even know. She starts to make that connection, that, hey, look at this. And she starts to, kind of try to piece them together. So I give Joyce some kudos for, having a bit of a brain herself, as crazy and spastic as she can be and eccentric that she can be. I think she's a lot smarter than what people give her credit for. Um, and you were commenting earlier that you had kind of gotten it easy with your son, not doing those really weird, creepy kid things. But I'm going to tell you, I was not so lucky. I'll share a story, and I'm lucky because my kid does not listen to this podcast, so I can talk about her all day long. So she can't say anything. She'd probably kill me. When she was little, she used to sleepwalk, and I'm a
Oh,
night owl, and so I would put her down for bed. She would have, like preschool the next day, so I would try and get her into bed at a decent time, and I was like a horrible like housekeeper. I really did not. I only cleaned like after she went to bed, because to me I didn't want to spend time, like if I could spend time with my kid, I was going to do that and not clean. So I would like clean while she was like in bed, and I'd be in the kitchen like doing dishes or just straightening up and doing whatever needed to be done, folding laundry or something, and watching TV or something, and just doing these mindless tasks. And I would hear a noise and I would turn around and she's like standing in the middle of the room.
oh, that's creepy.
Just like silent and just quiet and just staring at me. And I'm kind of like, hey, honey, what you doing? And it was usually because she needed to go to the restroom or something, and she was half asleep and didn't realize what she was doing. And I would just kind of gently steer her, to the restroom, help her out, get her back to bed, and everything was good to go. But this happened a lot, and let me tell you, the first several times that it happened, it scared the hell out of me, because you wouldn't hear her. You would just either kind of see something out of the corner of your eye. You might hear a little bit of shuffling of the feet, but she would just like appear out of nowhere. Um, and that was creepy. So I totally get this whole, creepy kid thing. I love my daughter, but she was a creepy kid at that age.
Would
Um,
she ever? I think I used to do this when I was little. Did she ever like sit at the edge of the bed and just stare at you and wait for you to wake up?
she didn't sit, but there were many times, like if she didn't do this while I was awake and doing housework or something, or just watching TV, there were times, like if it was really late, like 3 or 4 in the morning or something, I would wake up and she would be standing at the end of my bed, just
Oh,
staring at me. I wanted to throw something at her so bad.
I know I used to do that with my folks, but it was more like 6, 7 in the morning. Like it was like right at morning. But I can understand why they'd be pissed. Like you're staring at them because you don't want to wake them up, and then they wake up like, "Oh God, kid!"
I
Like, "Oh, now you're
know.
awake. Can I have some Cheerios?"
I know. It's like, what's it's like, what is wrong with you? But yeah, sorry, that was kind of got off on a personal tangent there, but had to just share because I thought it was, funny being a young mom and having a this little kid, and adorable as can be. I mean, loved her to pieces, but she did some weird things when she was a kid, that's for sure. But she's a weirdo like her mama, so it's okay.
Gets
But
it honest.
yeah, it's totally honest. But yeah, that was my number five. Just kind of tie into yours was Will the Wise. The whole and another thing that I really liked whenever the whole as Mr. Clark is talking in science class, because Will's not at school that day. The kids are in school, so it shows him in school, and he's talking about the body's defense mechanism and the body's
Yeah.
reaction to fear, and it's overlapped as Will is like walking through the house, and he walks into the bathroom and where his mother has drawn this really warm bath for him because of his low body temp. I really liked that whole effect too. I really like how they piece those things together. That kind of ties in to what
So
you said.
the thought on that I have, so like when you first see it, you think, oh, it's Will that's kind of got the fear. Do you think it's actually
Hmm.
the shadow monster? Like, is there something with heat that scares the shadow monster?
Well, we know, I don't know because the upside down appears to be very dark. There doesn't seem to be any sun, and we know that Dart,
Yeah, he doesn't like
Dustin's,
light.
he does not like light. It seems to, I thought he just shied away from it, but Dustin seems to think it hurts him
Hmm.
to
They
actually
use
be in the
fire at the
light.
oh, sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah, I was finished. But yeah, you're right. They're using fire to I don't even know, have they said what that stuff is, but whatever it is coming out of the upside down that they go and like maintain.
Yeah, it's kind of like the opening. It seems like because that seems like where they were going in and out of in the last season, and so they
Yeah,
just use
like
that fire to contain it.
yeah, like those tendril things are kind of coming out and like trying to encroach on our world. And you mentioned whenever Hopper was digging the hole that it like you heard a noise or a scream or something. You hear that when they're firing on
Yeah,
whatever that stuff is. It's coming out of the upside down, kind of growing itself out. It's like it sounds like it's screaming. It sounds like something from Harry Potter. Was there some of those
yeah.
weird plants,
Well, it's like the upside down is a living thing almost.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's a really good. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it seems like a lot of it. Yeah. Ew. Ugh. Creepy. That makes it, I think, even more worse somehow for me,
Yeah.
if you can imagine. Wow. Yeah. So that was my number five. Was just kind of tack on to a little bit of what you had already said very well. Is poor Will and what the hell is going on in that whole piece of this episode. Do you have anything else that you want to say about that?
No, I think that covers quite a bit on that.
I think we covered that part at least pretty well. What's your number four?
All right, so I am gonna go with the newest dude in this. That it's we're starting to peel back the onion on him, and he's I don't know I don't have a good name for him yet, but you can call him Bad Boy
We're
Billy at this point.
we're counting on you, Shawn, by the end of this watch of season two for you to come up with a good. You came up with Steve the D. Um, we're counting on you for something for Billy, so put
But
that on your list.
there's a little bit of time in this episode. I'm like, oh my god, Billy, you better not like have like some kind of like I have a rough exterior, but deep down I'm a sweetheart.
He's just a big old pushy cat.
Yeah, because when they're playing basketball again, him and Steve kind of get at it, and Steve gets plowed over by him as he scores, and Billy
Mm-hmm.
kind of leans down and gives him some advice about planting his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, in high school that I had these type of showers, or at least my high school had these showers, the get to know you showers. I don't know if
Oh
you've ever heard of them
yes.
called that way,
Oh well,
but
we had the same showers in the girls' locker room. Yes.
you just get to see everything on display. I
Yep.
lucked out because when I got into high school, they built a new gymnasium and stuff like that, new locker room, so they had private showers. Because that's one thing I'm not a big fan of is like showering in front of other dudes. Like it's just not my
Uh-huh.
thing. Even if I go to like a gym here, like I'll go to the handicap one where I can like close a curtain, just because
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like I don't want my stuff
Privacy.
on display.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, like this is so 80s. So they're in the get to know you showers, and all three of the dudes are like, dicks out right at each other. And they're talking about how Jonathan's girlfriend, the princess, they're calling her the princess, which I don't quite understand where that nickname came from,
Mm-hmm.
and how she's with Jonathan now. And Steve, or not Steve, I'm sorry, Billy kind of gives like that, tough dude love bro love to Steve. He's like, hey, there's a lot of bitches in the sea, and uh don't like as dudes. And just don't touch me in the shower. Like I'm in the shower, you're in the
Yeah.
shower, we're naked. Just don't touch me. And he
I
just
was
smacks him
gonna
on the back.
I was gonna ask you about that and be like, okay, I know, isn't it like a rule when you're in the restroom and at the urinal, like you don't make eye contact, you don't, like you can chat, but you have to look straight ahead or down.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to look at each other. And then whenever Billy kind of clapped him there on the shoulder, on the back, whatever, I was like, oh, isn't that a
yeah.
dude thing? You don't touch each other anywhere?
I
Like,
mean, I've
don't,
never. I'm just not like I don't like people touching me that I don't know or that I'm not like okay, like we have a relationship where you can touch me,
uh-huh,
especially like if I'm in a shower.
uh-huh.
It's just and like even like in sports and stuff like that. Like there's always like the smack the dudes on the butt. Like that was
Yeah.
never my thing either. Like I just don't understand like why are you smacking somebody on the butt? Like high five, do the knuckles. Don't touch my butt. That's my butt. Leave it alone.
I totally get what you're saying, and I totally respect your need for space. Everybody's definitely got their threshold for their bubble. Like, don't get in my bubble. And some people are sensitive about touching and stuff. I totally get that and respect that. I get the whole smacking on the butt thing. Um, Girls would do it too sometimes, as we're playing sports or something. But even as girls, I don't, I no, no, don't touch me in the shower. That's I don't care. Just like I don't even want a pat on the head. I don't want a hand on
Yeah.
on my hand. Don't touch me. That's private. And we're naked. Um, but yeah, I wondered about that. I was like, oh, that's. But maybe did he do that maybe to make him uncomfortable?
See, that's what I don't know if it's
He did
because
it
I
on
mean
purpose.
he flips off his shower and then like hits him on the back,
Uh
and
huh.
so like you don't know if like it's to make him uncomfortable or is there something weird about or not weird but maybe is there something about Billy that like maybe he's not really into girls. He actually does kind of like Steve in a different way. I mean I don't know for sure. And like I don't want to say like oh just because a dude touches
Oh.
another dude in a shower that means he's gay, but it just kind of seemed like I don't know, just didn't seem more like bro love as much as like, hey, I like you, guy. Do you like me? But and the other thing
Hmm.
that kind of makes me like, okay, well maybe Billy isn't all into girls is whenever Max comes back, he sees her talking to the boy, Lucas,
Yeah.
and he gets like really freaked out. Like it's almost like he's trying to protect her. But I'm like, okay, well, is Billy just a racist? Because Lucas, being black, like is he like is he just a
Yes.
racist? But being from California, I didn't know if they're. Again, I didn't live that time in the '80s, so I didn't know if maybe like Midwestern, like the stereotype is like, well, they're very sheltered there. They're not cultured, but in
Yes.
California, I think they'd have a little bit more exposure. But it just seems like he knows something that he does. Like again, this is like we've seen like what 5 minutes of Billy on screen time, and it feels like every minute they're just giving us a little bit more of like, okay, is he just a weird guy that's like a racist that's mean, or is there something behind this?
I know I'm so with you, and I'm really confused about where is this character going besides just being this huge jerk, because we've barely had any screen time with him. We've only had the little joy of him during the Shirts and Skins basketball game in the gym that we get a little bit of eye candy. Other than that, he is this huge jerk that every episode, I mean, just when you think that he can't do another thing to make you really hate him more, they do something else. And in the last episode, well, I don't know if it was in the last one or if it was in the second one, whichever one it was, he tried to run the kids over as he had picked up Max and they're, speeding down the highway and they're on their bicycles. And, he acts like he's going to run them over. And, it seems like every episode he just gets worse. And like you said, that was such a visceral reaction with Max for her talking to Lucas. And I thought the same. It's like, okay, is he just being I don't know if he's being protective because he doesn't really seem to care about Max because he's like, don't call her my sister. He's laying the blame, which I think is probably incorrect, for whatever reason that they're in Indiana and not California, laying it at Max's feet, and I think he's actually responsible in some manner. And then in this episode, he has such a visceral reaction to her talking to Lucas, and I'm like you. I'm like, okay, is he just being an ass because he just wants to completely control her, or is it a racist thing? Is he just that big of a jerk? Which surprises me. It seems like California is pretty, even, I mean, maybe even in the 80s, pretty liberal, and open, more than what like the Midwest is. Wouldn't be surprised by that kind of reaction from someone in the Midwest
Yeah.
versus, and I'm from here, so I can say that. I grew up here. I know. Don't email me and don't call me because I grew up here and I know. But that's just what I would find just more typical, at least in that era in the 80s, in a little bit more backwards kind of time that this is set in. So I was really shocked, and I keep, every time I see him on screen and how awful they keep presenting, I'm like, what are they trying to tell us with this character? And I
And that's
don't
the thing.
know.
We get back with like Bob, and it's like, is it just is this just his personality? He's just
Yeah.
a possessive jerk, and there's not really anything supernatural to him at all. He's just that's just who kind of guy he is.
Maybe, but then what's the point? I mean, is it because we're supposed to love Steve now? Now we have to have a bad guy. We have to have somebody to hate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I
I'm
just,
telling you, they're gonna be like this Billy guy. He's a real jerk too, dick face Billy. But
are
nope,
they
we
are
fall
they
in love
gonna
with
feed him to
Billy.
Dart? Maybe I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Have somebody to feed the new Demogorgon. I don't know.
But my number 4 is just the onion we're getting peeled back very very little of is Billy.
Yeah, gosh, I so bad for many more reasons than just this want to go binge the rest of this show and see what's up because hey, we're almost at the halfway point, right? Because there's 9 episodes. This is
Yeah,
number 4. So we're almost at the halfway point. So I'm really curious as to where this is going. And I just hope we get somewhere. I don't want it to be I just hope that his character isn't completely useless. He doesn't have to turn around like Steve did, and go from this, oh, you're such a douche to now he's the good guy. Doesn't necessarily have to be that. I just hope that there's some sort of point to his character and that they brought him on for a reason. I have to believe in the writers and the showrunners that they have a purpose. But let's get to it, folks. We're almost in episode 5.
yeah. I'm okay though with like when characters show up that they don't really like they have a purpose to the plot, but they're not they're not specific to the plot, if that makes sense. Where
Mhm.
like I'd be okay if they showed up here and they just showed up by accident, not like, oh well, actually Billy is number 6. He's crazy 6 Billy, and he's actually
Mhm.
just like 11, and so is Max. Like they don't have to be, any of this
Mm,
stuff. Like if they're just here and they show up and they just basically, trip over this event, I'd be okay with that.
yeah, I would be okay with that. He doesn't have to necessarily play a part in the role, or like not really the role, but like the series or the story, the mystery of anything like that. I just at this point, I don't see the point of his character. Just
No, yeah, I could agree
the
with that.
you know, unless it has something to do with Max exactly, because Max I do like and I care about. Her being a new character, I do care about her, and I'm interested in her. So unless it's supposed to help develop her character, maybe. Sometimes other characters don't have much story, but they have something to do with someone else's. So maybe if it has something to do with Max, I don't know.
Yeah, I could get behind that. I just don't want it to end up to be like you look at shows like uh you know the Vampire Diaries or
Mm-hmm.
True Blood is the two I can think of where as the season goes on, it's like everybody's a supernatural being or
Mm-hmm.
has like this overbearing power into this event. And it's just kind of
Right.
nice, like this is just a person that's just here. That's basically accidentally fell into this thing. They don't have any supernatural powers. They're not here for some cosmic reason. They're just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right. And you could be right, and it could be maybe he's not that interesting. It could just be like how he affects others because obviously he has interactions with Steve. He's getting up in Steve's face and it could affect something that Steve does or his character or Max. So if that happens and I can live with that, I don't need him to be an integral part of the story, but I just don't want him to be there for the sake of being an asshole.
I
I
gotcha.
at least
Yeah, I
want
could
him
get
to
behind
affect
that.
someone else. So anyway, moving on. Do you have anything else to say about your number 4?
Nope, that covers all of Billy.
Okay, yep, because there's not much to cover of Billy at this point. And as far as clothes, let's not cover Billy anymore. It's just So anyway, so my number 4 is word of the day. And today's word of the day is brat. So I love that we're getting lots of words of the day. I believe our last one that we had was bullshit, and which I think I like better than brat. So Hopper and Eleven, we just keep, I just watch their relationship, and I feel so bad for them. They both have their issues because it's like Elle has no idea how to be. I mean, I think she's acting pretty spot on almost about being a girl her age, a teen or
Yeah.
preteen her age, and acting out and being rebellious. However, she's letting these powers kind of, I think control her a little bit more because I do think she's being a little bit more violent than what I would like her to see. I think it's one thing when she has attacked and I think killed out of some instances in self-defense and others not so much. But the way that she goes after Hopper, in this episode when she's, like throwing the book back at him, she moves the couch where it slams into his legs. She's busting all, she screams and all the glass busts in the cabin. That's pretty, that's kind of out there. And Hopper has anger issues. And, I'm sure he's kind of thinking, how the hell do I handle a teen? Because his daughter died when she was still little. So he's probably out of his element dealing with a preteen girl. And not just a preteen girl, because I mean, I had a preteen girl and I don't know how to deal with a preteen girl. So, and on top of that, this one has superpowers. So, do you think Hopper's in over his head, this whole
I,
situation?
yeah, I kind of feel like when like he shows up and she's late coming home, he's sitting on the porch and I'm I don't know what you do in that situation. Like he can't really discipline her because
Mm-hmm.
obviously if he gets, like I think he was just at his wits end in a situation where he was super like scared because he kept saying trying to keep us safe, but I'm convinced that Hopper is more concerned about keeping her safe. Like
Yeah.
I think he would lay down his life to keep her safe, and he understands that with everything going on, if somebody figures out that she's out there, she's in danger. And I think he
Mm-hmm.
understands that, like, she wants to go see Will and all these things, or see Mike and all these things, but you can't do that yet. Like, we got to get this figured out because he doesn't trust that doctor. I'm pretty sure he knows something weird's happening, and now at the end of this episode, he knows for sure something's weird's really happening.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. You know, he stood his ground. Like when he was trying to get the TV picked up. Like if your kid had superpowers and you try to lift
Oh,
the TV and they
yeah.
hold it down, like, oh, okay, you get to watch TV. He's like, all right, well, 2 weeks. And she still does it. It's like, oh, well, guess what? Now you just graduated to a month. And he keeps
Uh-huh.
pushing her and she's pushing back. He's like, oh, okay, well, guess what? Rips it off. No TV then. And that's when she kind of flipped it out and, threw stuff and threw the chair at him.
Mm-hmm.
But he stood his ground.
He did. And that's got to be tough because I mean, she's pretty volatile at this point, and she has shown her aggression, towards him. And I mean, 11 has killed people. So
Yeah.
I mean, this girl can like squeeze your bladder. She can like melt your brain or squeeze your brain, so they like melt out your ears and your nose. Um, she's kind of scary. So I did admire Hopper for standing his ground because I don't know that I would have, been so brave in that moment. But yeah, I thought that was really great that, that whole moment where he's trying to move the TV and she's just like shaking her head like, nope, thinking that, and he's like, he was determined to win that fight. And that is like a true battle of the wills with someone of that age, any age when your kid is having, because they challenge you at different ages. It never ends, I feel, at least, maybe into adulthood or something, but it's like always at these certain stages in their life, they're always gonna to challenge you, and you have to like stand your ground and let them know that you are the boss in the end of at the end of the day, and what you say goes. And I don't know, just that whole thing. And I feel so bad because they both really care for each other. I mean, Hopper really does want to protect her, I think, and I think he really does care for her, sees her as the daughter that he lost, and does care about protecting her because he knows it's the right thing to do, and we know that Hopper cares about doing the right thing. And she sees him as like the father that she didn't have, but this like they're just not communicating he gets angry, she starts, slinging shit around the room, and it's like, if you guys could just have a conversation and like stop yelling at each other, this
Well, I
might
feel
work
like
out.
that's probably, I mean, besides the stuff getting broken and like the superpower part of it, but doors getting slammed, stuff getting thrown on the ground.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm sure that that's probably a lot of, parental experiences. I don't recall
Uh-huh.
anything like that because I was an angel as a kid, but
Sure you were.
I'm sure there's other kids out there who are not as good as I was that, talk back to their parents.
I don't know, Shawn. Maybe I need to call your mom and
my my
and
dad's got a
just
really good lawnmower story. Uh, yeah, whenever you yell over a lawnmower, the lawnmower
uh-huh.
doesn't block what you say.
Oh,
Yeah.
I feel like we need to probably talk offline about this story a little bit more. I need to hear more
uh,
details
there's
about
a
this.
time where you see your dad coming over after you just got out all these emotions, screaming. You're like, "What's Dad doing over here on the floor?" Oh God, he heard me.
Yeah, and I can attest to at least the slamming doors part of it when my kid was of that age. But I know in my own experience in that age, I was not, believe it or not, folks, I was a little rebellious and I did a lot of things I wasn't supposed to. And that included talking back to my mother. Of course, I paid for all of this, of course, but yeah, I talked back. There was some slamming doors. There was lots of harsh words. I was not a very nice child. That's how I don't know how I got so lucky with my kid, who was a really great kid, because karma did not come back and bite me in the ass on a lot of stuff that it should have. But yeah, you are right. I mean, it probably, a lot of that stuff is probably pretty typical, especially with the age that she's at. As I've said, if no one's warned you before, middle school's horrible, at least for girls. Maybe boys, I don't know. I have experience with girls. Um, yeah, you're right. And that's, take out the superpowers, and that's probably fairly common in most households. Anyway, that's my number four is word of the day.
Well,
BRAT.
that rolls into my number three, which was 11 coming home late. So I don't have a ton to add except, just you get the real feel like this is an actual fight between like a father figure and his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that it seemed to hurt him the most was when she's like, "You're just like Papa." And again, I
Oh.
really feel like
Mm-hmm.
he does not see himself in that way at all. Like he's doing this to legitimately protect her.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's probably the equivalent of like, whenever kids, I think every kid says like, "Oh, well, I wish you weren't my dad," or "I wish you weren't my mom." Like that cuts, and like the kid
It
doesn't mean it,
does.
but it's
Or when
just
your
it's
kid
that.
says, I hate you.
Yeah, because I
Oh.
mean, I'm sure they don't, but it's just you just get so pissed off, you don't know what to say, you
Mm-hmm.
blurt something out. And the other part that I thought was, was kind of towards the end is, he's kind of boarded up the windows. He comes to her door and he's like, "Hey, kiddo," and he gets that part where like he's gonna like back down a little bit, and you see it in his face. It was a great scene. And
Mm-hmm.
Hopper's gonna be like, it seemed like he's gonna be like, "Listen, I'm sorry, I kind of freaked out. Let's, when I get back, let's have a discussion and just communicate this." And he kind of starts going down that path, and he stops. And he's like, "I want this place clean before I get back," because again, he's the authority figure, he's the dad, and you're
Uh-huh.
not always gonna be, your kid's best friend. You're gonna be the villain at times, even though you're trying to do it for the best reasons. And so I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of a very like father, because I'm sure that's going to happen to me someday. Like my kid's going to be mad at me because I don't let them do something, and I'm going to feel bad. I'm like, well, I don't want him to be mad at me. So you try to,
Uh-huh.
fix that situation, but they're like, listen, no, I'm the authority figure. Like this is how it has to be for whatever reasons that I feel. So sorry, kiddo, but clean the house and stop using your superpowers to break windows. They're expensive.
Let's hope your son does not develop any superpowers to use against you.
But if he does, him and I are going to go to Vegas and play some craps.
That's right.
But yeah, my number
Yeah.
three just kind of tied into 11 coming home late.
Oh boy, and you're so right. You're so right on that. Yeah, because even though 11 has not had any kind of typical childhood that most kids like Mike and the rest of the group have had, she's been locked away and has not had socialization. She's only, been with adults and been used as an experiment. That's why I feel for them both. Hopper does struggle with his own issues. Elle struggles with how to learn to be an actual kid, an actual child instead of, who she is. And oh, it's such a struggle. But really good interaction. They both have really good interactions when they're on the screen together. So I like it. My number three is the plan. So I know we talked a little bit last episode about like what the fuck are Jonathan and Nancy up to. So we got to see what they were up to in this episode. So we got to see their plan that it looked like the whole time they were counting on being overheard on the phone. Like we knew, like, we saw them being, heard, and we kind of questioned, like, didn't they know they were being heard? What the hell are they up to? Well, now we know that they were pretty much counting on that, and they were counting on getting caught. What did you think about that whole sequence of events and their plan?
Well, this is actually my number one. I titled it Girls' Night.
Oh.
Because Nancy, she talks to her mom. She's like, hey, I'm going to go over to so-and-so's house. We're going to have a girls' night. We're going to paint nails, gossip, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's, they show up at the park, and instantly they look like they're on alert. Like they're watching for this, like all these people. Like it's like, oh, that guy's been looking at us. And it starts cutting to all these different people who keep staring at him. And this is, great acting inside of acting. So Nancy and, Jonathan, they know like, okay, we're going to get caught. And so they hurry up and rush their car, and, the car won't start for some odd reason.
Yeah,
And
right.
the guy like knocks on the door. Like the first thing I think of is, I wasn't sure if they were acting or not. I thought maybe they actually did want to talk to whoever and, tell her mom about her dying. But I'm instantly thinking like this is one hell of a mistake. Like they are going to be screwed. Like they're going to get taken to this facility. They're going to get thrown up in the upside down. Like it's not good for them whatsoever.
Right.
But they get thrown in the same room Joyce did, and our doctor friend comes along with his great bedside manner and his great like presentation. Like this is a great PR guy.
He's doctor friendly.
Yeah. And so he's like, all right, well, why don't you guys come along with me? And starts walking out. He's like, well, I'm just going to assume you're following me.
I know, that was good.
I mean, but so like it's, he's going through, he's not hiding anything. He's like, you guys know about this. We're
Yeah.
doing this for specific reasons. And I love that, and I'm sorry, he don't really love, but it's the fact that he's like, guess what? Do you want this to fall into the wrong hands? Because this is during like the Cold War. He's like, do you
This
want the
is the Cold
Soviets to fund
War.
this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think the Soviets would do with this? Do you think they would be like trying to keep it from spreading? No, they would use it and destroy everything. You're not a
Right.
commie, are you? You're not a commie, Nancy, are you?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because that was, I mean, I think it's, I think that's what's like such great writing about this show at this point because I actually, I mean, I don't sympathize with him, but I kind of saw his point. I mean, we are knee deep in the Cold War, and I don't think people, at least the people that aren't familiar with that era and were either adults or and maybe not kids, because I don't think kids really knew a lot about maybe what was going on so much. But if you didn't really know so much about being at that time, that was really kind of a dangerous time.
Yeah.
I mean, has anyone watched The Americans? Hello. Great show, by the way. But I kind of related to what he said because he's like, do you want the Soviets to find out about this? What do you think would happen if they found out all about this? So it kind of made you realize, oh, well, they kind of do have a point as to why they're trying to keep all of this secret. I mean, it is kind of serving their own purpose because, yeah, they kind of fucked up, with this whole thing, and some people died and some really bad things happened. But, there's also another part to it that we are in the middle of a Cold War with the Soviet Union and that it was very serious at the time. So I kind of saw his point. I'm like, he does kind of have a point. I mean, it's
But
not
even
right, but I see it.
but even then he's like, listen, like the guy before me screwed all this up. Like they made the mistake. I'm here to kind of clean things up and make everything better.
Yeah.
I'm your friend. Like I'm not here to,
Oh, yeah.
screw things up. I'm here to help. And it was so creepy at the end. Like he did it perfectly where he's basically threatening without threatening them. Like actually, saying, hey, if you guys, tell people we're going to ruin your lives, it's just kind of like, you wouldn't want this to get into the wrong hands, would you? Like bad things could happen.
Right.
And at that point, like you see Jonathan and Nancy, and I'm like, oh, they got it now. So whatever plan they had is going out the window. But we see at the end, that's not the case, right?
No, it's not the case.
So, you see them, they've recorded this whole conversation, which again, I don't know how long this conversation went for, but I don't think the
Hmm.
recording devices lasted that long back then. Like you had like
Well,
60-minute tapes.
yeah, I'm trying to think. I remember those types of recorders, and I remember those little mini tapes. I did not have a recorder, but if you were, and this, gosh, damn it, gonna freaking age me. I don't know why I keep talking about this shit when I'm talking about this on this show. Um, had the answering machines back in the day that recorded on those little tapes, and you
Hmm.
had to like change them and record over them and flip them over and all that stuff. No, they didn't hold that long. Or yeah, you're right. I think about 60 minutes. So how long did that whole interaction happen? When did she hit record? When they, um, how did they know they were going to get all of it? And that was something else that kind of made me question, like, why? Okay, so they're kids, they're teenagers. Maybe the people at the facility that brought them in are kind of just taken for granted that they're just kids, Nancy and Jonathan, and that they wouldn't think to bring in something like a weapon or some sort of recording device. Why didn't they search them though? Don't you think that was a little bit weird that they didn't check their bags or check their pockets, coat pockets and stuff to make sure that they weren't bringing something in that they weren't supposed to? Or do you think they're just like, oh, they're just kids. What are they gonna do?
Probably, but yeah, if this is a super secret facility and these people are like trying to tell somebody something, and you got to take precautions. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of surprised they don't have some kind of technology to be able to at least know that that's going on, or watch the tapes to see like, oh, well, she just reached into her purse to do something. What's going on there?
Yeah, and if they're so superstitious, or not, maybe superstitious isn't the right word, but so cautious, like you said, about the Soviets finding out secrets, I mean, who's to say that there can't be a child spy
Oh
from the
yeah,
Soviet
good
Union
call.
that could come into the facility and try to record or have like one of those spy cameras? I know I'm getting all James Bond here, but I love James Bond and spy movies.
Well,
But how do they?
I'm gonna say this right now. Nancy's a Soviet spy. That's what it is.
You're calling it. You said
Yep.
it first.
Nancy does
Yeah.
sound kind of Russian to me, right?
She does. She's got a little bit of an exotic look, a little bit of an ethnic look. But I mean, I just thought it was like, okay, I get that they're kids and they're high school kids, but if they're so worried about things getting out and secrets getting out, why weren't they a little bit more thorough about either not letting, like, okay, so I'm not talking strip search, but take their bag, take her purse, take their coats away from them while they're sitting in that room and not let them have them back until they're leaving. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I just thought that was a little bit careless and a little bit overlooked. It's like, well, I wouldn't
Well,
have
even
trusted them.
after they left, you'd probably tail them still, and then you see that they leave Hawkins. Like, well, why aren't you going home? Why are you guys leaving Hawkins?
Yeah,
And maybe it's the fact that the facility has no concern. It's like, okay, so they're gonna put this tape on like a news station. So what? Like, we can crush that story that has no proof whatsoever to it. You think
I
somebody's
mean,
really gonna believe that there's this magical upside down place where monsters live? Nobody's gonna believe that.
right. And well, we saw, how they went in and covered up, Will's disappearance with like a fake body and a fake death. And, how they were trying to clean up that whole thing in the first season. So, why can't they do something similar, this time around and kill
Yeah,
it
that's a good
before?
point. I would think those two be a little bit more cautious. Like, oh, guess what? You're leaving Hawkins. Oh, car accident.
Yeah. I mean, I get that they're kids and that it'd be a little bit more messy to cover up. I mean, obviously, the more loose ends that you have to tie up is more messy. But I think they're playing in something they shouldn't be. I get that they want justice for their friend, and I'm not saying that they're wrong for that, but I don't think they know what they're messing with. So that's my number three.
Cool. That led into my number one. So the only thing I have left then would be my number two, which I am titling Dart Eats the Cat.
Oh my word.
We alluded to it, and we have just been proven that Dart is, in fact, a baby demigorgon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that I don't think I feel uh, like I've solved a puzzle because as Dustin gets home, the mom is like, "Here, Snickles," or whatever the cat's name was. Instantly, I'm
I
like,
think
"Oh
meow
my
meow or
god!"
something
Yeah,
or yeah.
instantly, I'm like, "Oh, Dart ate the cat." Like you just like
You
they
knew.
they haven't they haven't talked about this cat but like once. Like Dart ate the cat,
Hmm.
and he goes in. He broke out of the glass. Dart broke out of the glass. Like it wasn't just he snuck out of the cage. Like he
That's
broke through it.
that aquarium glass can be some serious glass too.
Mm-hmm. And you follow the trail, and he's not just like eating this thing whole. He's just like chomping away at it, and
Ugh.
it's all we see. So I'm really curious if there is a connection between Dustin and Dart. Like there actually is like there's this guy. Like I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but there's this like 20-foot crocodile, and it has befriended a human being. Like there's a guy that swims with it and everything because he saved it when it was little. And
Really?
yeah, if you take a look at he's like it's a wild crocodile and he swims with it in the water.
Can I Google
Um,
this?
you can, I think you can go. I
Okay.
think it's in. I don't remember what
I
river it
don't.
is. It's overseas somewhere, but it's a
Oh,
big freaking
okay.
crocodile.
Oh my God.
And he just swims with it, and it's just like, yeah, this is my friend. I'm not gonna eat him unless I can't find anything else to eat, and then I'll probably eat him, which is probably what Dart thinks. It's like, oh, Dustin will be my friend until there's no more cats.
Right. Keep the food supply coming or you're next, Betty.
Yeah. But we saw him open his mouth a little bit when he was littler, but now it does the very much Demigorgon split mouth thing.
Uh-huh.
Which I don't want to see that transformation of this little like living booger into this thing with legs and arms. I'm not mentally prepared to see that transformation.
No. No. No, which I never thought Dart was that cute to begin with. I thought, oh my God, if I saw that thing rummaging around in my trash, I would kick the trash can as hard as I can and run screaming into my house.
Yes. Find
I would,
a can of WD-40 and a lighter and kill it with fire.
I know, or pour some salt on it like you do a slug when you're a kid. I'm sorry. I love animals. I really do, but I'm guilty. I did that once, maybe. That was a hard scene for me because I am a huge animal lover, and I thought the same. I thought, uh-oh, there's been no sign of a cat. We have seen the transformation of Dart, the previous episode, and we saw him, growing and evolving. We suspected as much that yes, he was like a baby Demogorgon. And of course, that means nothing good. We've seen what the one in season one did to the deer,
Oh
and
yeah.
pretty vicious creature. And it's attacked other humans. It ate Dr. Brenner, or attacked him. I don't know how much it ate him, but it killed him. So it's obviously. I don't know how mindless it is. I'm like you. Does it feel a connection towards Dustin? Would it hurt Dustin? If because I'm like you, I haven't seen that story about this man and this 20-foot crocodile, but I have seen this story and it makes me cry every time I watch the video of, if you've ever heard of Christian the Lion. Have you ever heard of that
I
story?
think
These
I have.
two
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
in London who had this lion and rescued him, and he lived with him for years and years and years in London, and they had to end up releasing him to this animal reserve in Africa, and it had been years and years since they had seen Christian, and they went to the animal preserve where he was to go see him, and when Christian approached these two guys and recognized him, like he was standing there like checking him out, like, who are you guys? And you're in my domain. And he's a wild animal, right? And he walks up to them and all of a sudden he just jumps on them and hugs them and
Yeah.
like licks them all over. Oh my God. I'm telling you what, people, if you need to cry, if you need a good cry and you can't quite get it out, go YouTube that video. It will get you
Yeah.
every time.
You watch it
So
and you're like, oh God, he's gonna eat him. This isn't gonna end well. It's like, oh, they're
yeah,
just like people.
there's a moment that he's kind of looking at him like, oh shit, he might eat them. It might be like a Siegfried and Roy kind of incident here that he might attack them or something. But all of a sudden, as soon as you see that face, you see another face of recognition, and he just jumps on them and just hugs them, and it is like the most beautiful thing in the world. And I'm getting teary eyed just even thinking about it. I haven't watched the video in a long time, but it makes me cry. But anyway, my point to that is like what you said. Is there some sort of connection? I wonder. Obviously, no connection with that cat. The cat ate it. He's gone. And that was a hard scene for me to watch because I do love animals, and I cringed because I knew what was going to happen. I think that's a really good question. What the hell's he gonna do? Do you think he's gonna tell his friends? Because his friends are they're digging in the garbage looking for Dart.
Yeah, I don't. So that's the thing is like, does Dart have some kind of like mental power over him, or is this going to be like, oh God, like this animal's not like this isn't a friendly animal. I mean, you have to think like, like you have pets that like maybe your dog accidentally plays with the cat a little too hard. Like, what do you do? I mean, I guess in this situation, it wasn't playing, like this was actually eating it.
Yeah,
But
he wasn't. The Three Musketeers wasn't working for it anymore.
yeah,
Ah, tough.
but yep, that was my last thing. But that was my number two is Dart eats the cat. I don't know. I wonder if that was a callback to the great '80s TV show Alf.
Oh, I don't know. Oh my God, you're right. Because Alf always tried to eat the cat. It's always chasing the cat all the time. I totally forgot about that. Oh, I'm so proud of you, Shawn, that you know that. Usually I have to help you with 70s, 80s references.
That was a TV show. I had a little Alf stuffed doll, and every day or every night that was on, I'd sit in front of the TV with my little Alf and watch Alf on TV.
I loved Alf. What was one of the little things that every time they went to commercial break or came back or something, he would say a little phrase and it was always something about watch your cat or something?
I think so. Yeah, there's like PSA for cats. I think they did.
Yeah, it was always one of those taglines with Alf. You're right, I forgot about that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Is Destin finally going to realize, this might not have been such a great idea? Maybe the fellas were right about this being a creature, number one, from the upside down. Two, it's dangerous. Because it's going to get bigger. I think that, I mean, he saw the Demogorgon from last season. It was not a small being, it was huge, um, and vicious. And I don't know. We'll see if they're able to maintain that relationship, if there is one at all, and what happens. Oh geez. Um, Good thoughts. So my number two is Elle's mom. So we see as Elle is, going through the cabin, kind of cleaning up a mess. She notices in the floor. A door and some storage space, and now we see what happened with all that stuff that Hopper had in the cabin, because he said he basically used it for storage. And I know I kind of thought like, well, what did he do with all that stuff? Where did all of it go? It went in the crawl space apparently, or the storage area. Elle finds these boxes and these files, and she figured out who her mom is, which I think we've talked about before, and kind of speculated, was Terry, and I can't think of her last name. Is Elle
Oh yeah, I
Jane,
can't. Yeah,
and is Terry her mom? Is this, is that what that connection is? And um, I felt so bad for Elle. She so badly is looking for that parent connection, and she really wants that mom that Hopper was reading to her in the previous episode. Um, and she puts on that blindfold and she grabs that picture and she tries to connect with her as she would do with Mike, and as she would experiment when she was at the facility, trying to reach that person and connect with them. And I thought that was such a sad moment, because it's like she sees her, and we see her as kind of like how Joyce and Hopper saw her in the first episode. It's like the lights on, but nobody's home. Um, and I thought that was really sad moment for Elle, and that pained look on her face and that torment that she had, I thought was really genuine. I thought that was a really great um, moment from Millie Bobby Brown, that heartache that she was really trying to make that connection, and she just wants to, I think, just wants to feel like she belongs somewhere, and that she belongs to someone, and that she's a part of something. And I don't think she's found that yet. I think Hopper tries really hard, um, but they're not quite there yet. And I think that she wanted it with Papa from the previous season, and she didn't quite get there. And she just wants it so bad, and it really just pulls at my heartstrings as a mom, to see that she struggles with that. And I just thought that was a nice moment. I think that that kind of answered the question, because I think we didn't quite know. We just had to kind of speculate and probably assume that was her mother, but I think we're right about that. So that's my
So
number two.
when she kind of like dissipated, do you think that was her mom like dying, or do you think she just lost connection with her, or do you think maybe the government came and took her away?
I
Because
don't know.
we've never
I
really
I
seen anything like disappear like that she's tried to connect with. Like she's never seemed to lose anything when she's done that.
Right. Yeah, we haven't quite seen that loss of, well, I mean, I don't know. What happened in one of the other episodes where she was kind of connecting with Mike when Mike's in the basement and he's sitting in like Elle's little like fort or sleeping area in the basement and he's got the walkie-talkie and he's trying to connect with Elle and does he disappear or
I
does he just I can't remember
thought he
what
just
exactly
walked
happened.
away, and
That's what I
then
thought,
she
like he
didn't
just
really
got up and walked
follow.
away.
I think, yeah, if I recall.
I don't know. And I don't know if it was because her mom is not stable that
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I really I was confused at that point too. I thought, why is she did she die, like you said, or did she somehow become conscious enough that she was able to leave that space because it kind of triggered something for Terry? And she was able to leave that space. I don't know what that meant. I don't know if it meant something. Maybe I'm speculating on it and it doesn't really mean anything. But if it does, I hope we find out because I did wonder about that.
Yeah, because it wasn't like Elle's like reaction was like, "Oh, I'm crying from happiness because I found my mom." It was more
Mm-hmm.
of like, "Oh my gosh," like a
She's taken
sad
away from
cry.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Like
like
I
you said,
found her and she's been taken away.
that was a great scene. Like you were just kind of saying, like she like, when she was crying, like they pulled back, so she's crying in this version of her upside down. I don't know what you would call it, but
Mm-hmm.
she's crying in there, and so they pull back, and you see her just sobbing, with the blindfold still on. So you're seeing like what anybody who walked up and saw her would see. And then she
Mm-hmm.
takes the blindfold off and she's back in the real world. And it's just this, heartache just being poured out. And it's just like that cry that you have where you just like throw yourself into a pillow or throw yourself on the bed and just sob for hours. It was like, that was just a great, great acted scene.
It was, yeah, I really felt it. It really tugged at my heartstrings. That moment it was like a true gut wrenching, your world is over, kind of cry, and she really pulled that off. So that's my number two. Is we made that connection, and what does that mean going forward? Well, we already did your number two, and you said you had your number one that we kind of talked about already. Was there anything else that you wanted to add about your number one?
No, I think that pretty much covered all the, like, I'm still kind of curious, like, where they're taking this because, like in this age, you'd throw it up on YouTube, which I think if you throw it up on YouTube, it's going to get buried then too, unless it goes viral. But I'm curious what they're going to take it to. Like they're leaving Hawkins, so are they going to road trip it to New York? Are they going to road trip it to Chicago, like a bigger city? Um, but it's one of those things. It's a government conspiracy, and you can't fight the government very well.
I
So
know. I think that they're thinking at this point like we've pulled one over on them, but I think that Nancy and Jonathan might be underestimating them just a little bit. I don't
hmm
know.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
they're
I'm
going to be in for a
curious.
surprise.
I think so too, and hopefully they don't come out for the worse for it. Okay, well, my number one is we've already covered a lot of it, so I won't go into it too much. Is just basically the upside down. Like here we are again. We know it's there, but the like Hopper's discovery after Will kind of drying out, and they find out that it's not like tunnels; these are vines, and it's killing. He makes that connection of like the pumpkin patch digs the hole, boom, what do we see? We're up shit creek. So he knows he made the connection in the last episode with like where the vegetation and pumpkins were dying and how it was coming out of like this radius from where the facility was. And so obviously somehow it's like I think the people at the facility think they have it under control. Like we got this. We have these nice new doors to where something can't just come out without us knowing or getting to it first. It's not nothing is going to escape. We have it all under control. They have this regular maintenance where dude, gets up in his hazmat suit or in like fireproof kind of suit and he's maintaining everything that's kind of seeping out, but they don't, I think, know about this.
Yeah, that's
That
the
it
thing I'm
is
curious about. 'Cause, I mean, they've been out there and they researched it too. So did they not find it? So, like, is this doctor going to be like, oh shit, I'm not going to get a good review from the government now?
Yeah, yeah, there goes bonus. Um, because clearly whatever they're doing to keep things under control is not working. It's like Jeff Goldblum says in Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
Yeah.
And the Upside Down found a way out. And it's seeping, I think, into everything. I mean, it's affecting Will. Things are getting out. It's like he can see between both worlds. It's killing. It's like expanding out from the facility and expanding out and killing. It's killing. How long before? It's poisoning the pumpkins. It's poisoning the vegetation. How long before it starts affecting people and animals?
Yeah, I mean, is it going to get into water supplies? Is the tunnels like expanding up? Like, is it going to start seeping into just the real world even more?
Right. And remember that when they went in, when Joyce and Hopper went into the Upside Down last season, they made them put on those hazmat suits because
Oh
they said
yeah,
the
yeah.
air's toxic. And obviously it is toxic because it's poisoning the soil, it's poisoning vegetation. Like you said, if that seeps into something that before it completely rots, because it rotted the pumpkins pretty fast. So the chances of someone eating those pumpkins are pretty rare because it happens so quickly. But what if it seeps into something that people do manage to either eat or it gets into the air and it's toxic or killing animals, wildlife? It's not good. Not good. So that's my number one is just the whole upside down seeping out. Obviously does not wish to be contained. It has been unearthed or the gate has been opened and it is not to be closed. So
Good number one. I like it.
yeah. So do you have any notes?
The only note I have left was when you kind of mentioned the items in the basement. So I read the boxes from Hopper. So we see a box from New York. We
Mm-hmm.
see a box labeled Vietnam, and we see a box
Yes.
labeled Hawkins Lab. So that kind of probably solves one of the questions we had if he had been to Vietnam. So it kind of looks like he had.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I noticed it in my first watch. On my second watch, I think I was taking notes or something and might have overlooked it the second time around, but I didn't remember seeing it on the first one. I go, aha, because we did talk about that because he was setting up those booby traps. And we thought, dang, that's not just some big city cop stuff. That's like military stuff, you know? Um, that's not just Cop 101 that they teach. So yeah, good catch. What else did you have?
That was the only note I had. Everything else we covered pretty in depth.
Yeah, we did. And I didn't really have a lot of notes. Usually I have a lot more notes in this episode, but I think that so much was covered in our top five. The one thing that I did make a point of, I thought was kind of funny, was Joyce's driving skills. Man, when she pulls into that school, that just, it killed me. But I thought, you know what? That's Joyce, or that's any mom who's panicked about their child, because we know that she left in a panic in the previous episode. So I think it made perfect sense. But I thought, dang, that was right up there by the bike rack, man. You could have, you could have,
Yeah.
you could have taken a kid out just trying to get his bike to leave school.
So what was she driving? Was that a Gremlin? Was that the car?
Um, it's either like a Gremlin or a Pinto.
Okay.
I'm not great on my older cars. I love cars, but on my older cars, I'm not that great unless it's like a Trans Am or something or a Charger. I like the muscle cars. I'm a muscle car kind of gal. I don't know what that was. It was either, like you said, either a Gremlin or like a Pinto. Not the greatest cars, but you saw them a lot in that era, that's for sure. Um, and that was about it. The other stuff that I have in my notes, which were just a few, we've already talked about in my number or in our number fives, top five there. So, okay. So, are we ready for some news from the show?
Yeah, let's hear some news.
All right. So just a couple things, kind of a slow news week. So first thing that we have is from Deadline.com. So at the Vulture Festival in LA, the Duffer Brothers, Matt and Ross, took the stage with producer Sean Levy to talk about the latest season and tease fans about the third season. So a little snippet from that. They said, We are in very early days on season 3 and we're still figuring it out, said Ross Duffer. But after saying this, he looked around and said, I probably wasn't supposed to say that. He then reeled it in and said in a joking panic, that's not official. That was not an official announcement. We're just working on it, just for our own amusement, for fun. So
I
everything I'm
hate how,
seeing,
yeah.
I'm not seeing an official confirmation on season 3. I mean, I think it's probably, I mean, I don't know how it ended, of course, but I'm sure it's probably on some sort of cliffhanger or making you want more story. But I don't think it's been officially announced. I think everyone knows that's where it's going.
I always hate how you have to have like that paperwork stuff. Like, yeah, like, oh, we can't officially say it's anything. It's not official. It's all the
Exactly.
lawyer jargon and all that stuff.
Lawyers, managers, agents,
Yeah.
no one, like, they don't have all the official signatures yet. That's what it is.
Our next story comes from LRM Online. So this Stranger Things star can't be told spoilers anymore. Speaking at Vulture Fest last Saturday, creator Matt Duffer revealed the actor they have to hide secrets from. We can't tell David Harbour anything anymore. He's cut off. He tweets it. He puts it on Instagram. He tells every journalist he can find. I'm not telling him anything. It's probably for the best. Harbour certainly comes across as a very enthusiastic actor who's ready to talk about how excited he is for this upcoming project. Sadly, it doesn't always work out when you're trying to play the secretive game. Though, of course, there will be some point when the series has been shot and they're talking to the press, there are only so many preventive measures they can take. But at least for the time being, we can celebrate the fact that we have more than a year until we can expect Stranger Things 3.
Yep. This is a tough one. They take security on these spoilers and leaking of scripts and stuff pretty tight. So I just find it hilarious that they joke about like we can't tell him anything. He's gonna tell.
Well, a lot of
Just
times too, like when these cons and stuff are going on, like they basically don't allow the actors to go to them just to avoid any potential spoilers.
they're pretty big with that. AMC is pretty big with that with their actors that are currently filming. During the season, whenever they have like their Walker Stalkers and conventions that they have, yeah, a lot of them aren't allowed to, like, they can attend, but they can't do panels and stuff because, they know that questions will be asked and it's so easy to let stuff slip.
Yeah, I
So,
could see it.
yeah, they lock it down pretty tight. So, which I understand. I mean, it kind of sucks. People kind of want to know, but it's like, people, do you really want to be spoiled? Like, I don't know. I don't. Um, Okay, so next we have some letters from the Upside Down. This is our listener feedback, which is one of my favorite parts. So we'll jump right in. First one is from Stephanie Fernandez. She says, at first I thought the speeding car in the beginning would be Billy's. Should have known it was Joyce. The way the camera spins around Will and the others as he's being consumed by the shadow monster while switching between the upside down and the regular world is amazing. Gorgeous shot of the sunset through the woods, as Elle is coming home. And then everything goes south. Hopper really doesn't get it, does he? I mean, I appreciate he wants to keep her safe, but she's been a prisoner all her life. There had to be some other options. How could he honestly expect her to not want some freedom eventually? Loved Elle's psychic temper tantrum. It was completely appropriate for her character, given her state of mind in the situation. I felt so bad for Elle by the end when she's crying and distraught in her room. It would have helped if Hopper could have been a little nicer to Elle in the morning, but he had to be stubborn. I wish I had psychic powers to help me do housework. so, so the labels on Hopper's boxes: Dad, New York, Vietnam. All possible story elements for the future, I imagine. And of course, then Elle finds out about her mother. It was bound to happen, and honestly, I've been hoping it would since last season. So Jonathan and Nancy definitely knew they would be captured by making that phone call, which is why Nancy is more comfortable around Jonathan at the moment, because she knows he'll back her up when she feels the need to do something, instead of trying to distract her or talk her out of it. Loved the whole scene at the lab with Dr. Owens speaking to them. It was both oddly casual and unmistakably threatening. I agree. The kids are all understandably tense in this one. I can understand Max getting upset at the boys. Mike is still being a butt about her threatening Elle's place in their group. And apparently Billy is a racist in addition to being an asshole. Great. I hope he dies. But no, instead, it's the poor kitty who gets it. Hashtag justice for Muse. Damn it. Why couldn't it have been the turtle? No, not the
Oh,
turtle.
what does she have? Yeah, what does she have against turtles?
No, not the turtle. But I knew it would be Muse when they showed the cat food being poured into his bowl. Fucking Duffer Brothers. They probably just wanted to be able to make it more gory. Jerks. And now we know for sure that Justin was being stupid, hiding this thing from the others. I was glad to see Mike go to Will's house to check up on him at the end and reveal to Joyce that he knows about what's going on. Noah Schnapp is once again fabulous in portraying Will's terror and helplessness, and when Will tells Joyce that the shadow monster likes it cold, I shivered. Then he's desperately drawing one undecipherable picture after another like his life depends on it, which I guess it actually might. This gives Joyce the chance to once again start covering her house with unique decorations and leads Hopper to what appears to be some kind of tunnel between the real world and the Upside Down. Hope he's not planning on exploring that place alone.
Oh, great email.
Yeah, great email, Stephanie. Thank you.
So we got Laura Willis Swink saying, "Oh, Hopper, we love you, but can you please pick up a parenting book or something? Don't you know that yelling at your kid and calling them names does not help to diffuse the situation? Especially when that kid has superhuman telekinetic abilities and could probably kill you with a sideways glance." That scene was hard to watch, but very real life, and it broke my heart for both Hopper and Eleven. Poor Mew Mew. Why are we killing cats? I would have stomped on Dart when he was in a living booger stage.
Oh, I love that, Laura. Andrew Newton says, I think this episode really shows us the flaws that continue to haunt Hopper. At the center of it all is the emotional baggage that he still carries from his past, and that rises up in an ugly way with his treatment of Elle here. There's still a damaged man here. It would seem he's not quite ready to confront that particular pain of losing his daughter, and it shows. We've seen it here and earlier in the season that despite his best intentions, he's making promises he can't keep. He's keeping secrets that carry costs of their own and attempting to do everything himself to almost foolish proportions. As much as he may feel that venturing into strange tunnels without anyone knowing where he is may seem like taking initiative and keeping others away from danger, at some point this becomes more of a frailty than an asset. I would argue these events with Hopper, while servicing the plot, are important insights into his character. As fun as it is just to picture him as a man who can do it all, I think there's a lot of value in exploring these underlying feelings that come from a troubled place and how his actions are dictated by that. Wherever his journey goes from here, he has a lot of healing to do. Thanks for indulging me on this mini essay. Thank you, Andrew Newton, for this mini essay. That's some wonderful insight. Thank you.
Steve Brown, so that effect of seeing the smoke go into Will was really well done. Max seems to be firmly in the group, or is she? Jonathan and Nancy knew they were being listened to and planned accordingly. The doctor really opened up without searching them. Loved Elle's cleaning skills. Noah Schnapp's acting is outstanding. Notes. Dart was really quiet and still under Dustin's hat. I'm not a parent, so I don't have any comments on Hopper's parenting skill. Hairband Billy is a jerk. Poor Mew Mew. Hairband Billy.
Hairband. Now, Steve here might
pretty
have
good.
Given us the nickname that we're missing. We'll throw that in the hat for sure. As a possible option. I'm still counting on you, though, Shawn, for a good nickname, because I don't think I'll come up with one. Jillian Moreau says, I cannot even imagine the helplessness that Joyce feels watching her son go through this horrible ordeal, knowing there's absolutely nothing she can do at the moment to fix it and make it all better. She's so super supportive, though, and I think she's doing the best with what she has. And as others have said, Noah Schnapp is absolutely killing it in his portrayal of Will. That kid is amazingly talented. God, I love this show.
Wendy Ott Eppers, so I finally finished this. Poor Will. Will this kid ever get a break? When he was talking to Joyce and said, I just want this to be over, heartbreak. And poor Joyce, she has to feel so powerless to help him. Yeah, that's, I mean, she's going through so much in her own. Like, first she loses her kid, now her kid comes back, obviously going through some traumatic stuff, and now he's essentially, like, possessed.
Yeah, like you think it's going to be over because he's back, but everything is not going back to normal and it's awful. So we have some emails. So first one is, hey guys, just finished last week's podcast and wanted to comment about something that you guys touched on. When talking about how Hopper knew about Eleven being in the woods, I think it had something to do with the guy she knocked out with a burnt squirrel. He definitely had to have told somebody after he came to and his coat and hat were gone. So either he told the police or somebody he told somebody else and it got back to Hopper, who would have then knew exactly who that little girl was. Also, did you guys happen to catch the little music playing when Dart made his run out of the AV room? Definitely sounds like some Gremlins music. Ha ha. Joshua Price. Oh my God, I'm gonna make you do that every show. Yeah, I like that. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a really good point. I know I was thinking about, I just totally overlooked that. Did you think about that? That maybe it was the guy in the woods that she threw the squirrel that when he discovered her and came across her, that's how maybe it got to Hopper.
Yeah, because I mean, that timeline kind of bounced back and forth. So, as you kind of see all of it, it kind of seems to make sense. Like that guy obviously would have been like, hey, like this really weird thing happened. And Huey and Dewey wouldn't make any sense of it, but Hopper would probably put the piece together, be like, oh God, somebody moving something with their mind. Like that's probably 11.
Yep, you're right. So good email, thanks.
So our next email is, so as a latchkey kid from the 80s, I love the set design, spot what mom used to have, and the electronic music. However, I hated the Stranger Thing was also a horror thriller. I was traumatized as a child by the movies Gremlins, Ghouls, and Silent Night, Deadly Night. I only watched Gremlins. The other movies had posters at the video store, and that is all it took to scare the bejesus out of me. Don't even start me on the Twilight Zone, where they have real fortune-telling fortune cookies. My husband and I watched season 1 last year, and I had at least 3 nightmares and had to turn on extra lights as I walked in my dark house. However, those little kids hooked me in, and I had to watch season 2. Plus, Trapper Keepers. I mean, they must have shown everyone how to hold those just right. Because I found your podcast, I have rewatched season 1 and am now rewatching season 2. Like this, episode, podcast, repeat. Because of your insight, wit, humor, and observations, I was able to rewatch season 1 without fear. No nightmares. Also, Stranger Things is so funny. There were too many details that I missed on the first viewing. Season 1 and 2 are both standing strong with a second viewing. Anyway, thank you for guiding me through another round of this great stories. Warmly, Elizabeth. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Aw, thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks for letting us be a part of that with you and a part of your journey. That's great. Thanks. Next one says, hey, Rima and Shawn, I'm loving this podcast. I listened to all your episodes, season 1, as I rewatched to gear up for Stranger Things 2, and now I'm listening as I rewatch this new season again. I've watched it all, but I will not spoil anything for you, promise. Love hearing your notes on the show and living in the good old 80s. I look forward to them every Friday. Here are a few things I noticed about Stranger Things 2, Episode 4, Will the Wise. Promises seem to be a strong theme of this season and episode. Joyce and Will, Hopper and Elle, and of course the promises Mike and Eleven made to each other last season hang over the whole season. The lighting in this is so fantastic. It really takes you back to the 80s and looks realistic at times with the flashlight bulbs and lamps, but also is truly magical at others. This is something I picked up from your episodes in season 1. Hopper's blue bracelet. He is playing with it when he talks to Elle through the door. In season 1, Sarah has the same color hair tie when she's in the park and has her first attack. Maybe he braided those hair ties together to make the bracelet. It totally has a connection to his daughter, and you can see him struggle with all the emotions of now having another daughter figure in his life. See more shirts versus skins basketball. Totally Top Gun reference. Yeah, the volleyball game. Yes. She goes on, when the boys are in the shower, Steve's D-bag friend is back and refers to Nancy as the princess. Is that a throwback to the season 1 finale? They mention in the D&D game the Thessalhydra, the Lost Knight, the Proud Princess, and those weird flowers in the cave. Is Max the Proud Princess or Nancy? Mike is back leading the group and stepping up to be a hero, but he seems to have trust issues with girls. Is this justified? Just being a 12-year-old boy thing? Or is he threatened by Max? There seems to be a division of the party, with Will and Mike on one side and Dustin, Lucas, and Max on the other. Ending shot, Hopper is now totally Indiana Jones. Yay!
Yeah.
Keep up the good work, guys. Love the show. Best, Meg from New Jersey. Wow. Good thoughts in there, Meg.
Yeah.
What do you...
I like
I like it. Shawn, you were the one that talked a lot about Hopper's blue bracelet. What do you think about her thoughts on that bracelet?
I hope it plays like some kind of role because I mean like it was very prominent it seemed in season 1 and we've seen it a bunch of times in season 2. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm really curious to see what it if it again even if it's just like slightly mentioned later in the season, it's just kind of cool to have that continuity.
Yep, I agree.
So, hello, Rima and Shawn. I finally got the time to start watching Stranger Things, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it since I'm not a huge fan of child actors. I'm not really sure why, but OMG, this show got the casting right. I've been watched it all to episode 4 and heard the podcast too. So now I've caught up on you guys. I really like the podcast. You two really have a good chemistry. I love Rima ever since I've heard her from the Walking Dead cast and became friends afterwards. So when I heard she was going to host this podcast, I had to listen to it. I want to share a theory. Since you two wasn't sure how Hopper knew 11 was in the woods, we see her attack a hunter and knocking him out. I'm sure he reported the attack to Hopper, and if the hunter described her like he saw it, a girl in the woods, in a dress, short hair, cooking food, since Hopper is a smart guy, he would have put 2 and 2 together and figured out it was 11 and she was hungry. That was it. See ya. Mads Thomas from Denmark.
Cool. Thanks, Mads. Next one starts out saying, I want to start off by saying I really hate it for Steve that he got his heart broke. But Jonathan and Nancy, that scene was set up so perfectly. They were called out for having feelings for one another and were continuing to lie about it, not only to everyone, but to themselves as well. Even in the next morning eating breakfast, we all know what happened. He knows. They know he knows, but we're all screaming on the inside. Yes! I don't know where I see the relationship going. At least they did something about it. I'm interested to see another year time hop and see where they are as a couple next season. I swear, if they don't acknowledge it, I'll be pissed. I know there is bigger fish to fry as the story itself. I just really cared about these characters' relationship. Savannah Carver. Thanks, Savannah. Good email. So that is all the feedback that we have for the show. We had lots of great feedback on the Facebook page and lots of really great emails. You guys have such great things to say. I love it so much when I get to read what you guys have because it really helps open my eyes and give me a different perspective. And totally when I miss something, I want to know about it. I don't know everything. And even though we watch these episodes twice, we still miss things. So thank you everyone for taking the time to write in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So next week we'll be covering the 5th episode from season 2 titled Chapter 5, Dig Dug. The description for this episode is Nancy and Jonathan swap conspiracy theories with a new ally as 11 searches for someone from her past. Bob the Brain tackles a difficult problem.
Dig Dug. Have you ever heard of that, Shawn?
That's a video game, right?
Yeah. Do you know like what they do in Dig Dug?
No, I
Or
don't.
like
I've never played it or anything.
so thinking of like Hopper's digging in that garden that he was at in the tunnel, that was kind of like Dig Dug.
Oh, okay, clever.
Yeah, I don't know if it has anything to do with that. I have not seen the episode, but that's just like thinking of Hopper's and the ending of that and then the title of this one. It could be maybe they're back at the arcade again. I don't know because it was an arcade game. But interesting. I kind of sucked at Dig Dug because those little creatures that would come after you when you were digging the tunnels would bite me in the ass all the time whenever I played and kill me.
So if the upside down starts breaking into our world, I need to find a new partner.
Yeah, you might need to because something's probably going to bite me in the ass and take me out. So we'll start searching. We'll do a search for you and find you one. Okay, so we are so excited for you to travel to Hawkins, Indiana with us. And until then, you can follow us on Twitter at Strange TCast.
You can like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/strangertcast.
You can email us at strangerthingscastpod@gmail.com, and you can also find us on the TV Time app.
You can find Strange Indeed and a bunch of other great podcasts like Podcast Junkies at podcastica.com. Go out and leave a review for Strange Indeed or any of the other great Podcastica podcasts on Apple Podcast.
Lots of good ones. Go check them out. And also make sure to check out Shawn and his other podcast, The Language of Bromance, that comes out every Sunday.
Tons of fun. It's a lot of laughs.
Yeah, lot of fun stuff.
And remember to help our show and our sponsor go to Freshly and get their best offer, which is only valid for a limited time. Just go to freshly.com and use the promo code STRANGE to save $40 on your first 2 weeks of deliveries, or enter STRANGE at checkout. And shipping is always free. We've got some information in our show notes as well to check that out.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's our show. Episode 12, Chapter 4, Will the Wise.
Until next time, I'm Rima.
And I'm Shawn.
And Savannah Carver is strange indeed.